Yes. Let's boogie. Let's boogie boogie. Welcome back.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome back, everyone. Hello. Welcome back to the Social Pillar, everyone. It is so good to see you. It's our 10th episode, double figures. We made it. Didn't know how we
Two
would.
hands.
We got
Wait,
here.
yes, two hands.
Yes.
This many.
So good to see you both.
Yeah.
As always,
So
thank
good
you.
to share this. Welcome back, guys, to everyone here to the Social Pillar, our ongoing conversation between three games masters and our awesome chat community about the value of role-playing games, crafts, cultures, and communities in this world of ours. Hello, I am Ian Zammit, also known from Roleplay Experience, and to my left, Thea.
I mean, that's cheating because we're all on that side of you. Hello,
We're
I
trying, I
am
think.
Thea, also OMGM. I do D&D and tabletop stuff. And anyone who was here last week remembers I was unwell. My brain continues not to work appropriately. Strap yourselves in. And now to my this side.
Yes, hello. I believe that's me. Good evening. My name is Jared, also known as the GM Chef, the Games Master Chef. And yes, we are once again back live, continuing the ongoing conversation about role-playing games. And boy, this is such a special episode for us because it's 10 episodes. We've achieved what we are dubbing a season, an arc, and together we are so grateful for everyone who's joined us along the way. But not only have we provided so many amazing conversations for you guys to listen to, but we've learned things alongside everyone together. So tonight I think we reflect on some of the things we've learned, some of the things we've enjoyed, and what's been important for us, celebrate what we've achieved, and yeah, take it from there.
Double figures, not two hands, because we hit that when we got to episode 6. Double figures is 10.
Yes, almost three hands. Yeah, that's it.
But you could count this
Almost
many.
there. This many, so many. It is.
However you
It's
want.
pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome looking back at this as well. So, but before we kick into that tonight, we'll do a quick recap. We're going to talk about three things. Number one, we're going to finish off last week's discussion because we got 5 out of the 7. There you go, 2 hands again. 7 things.
We're counting on hands now. This is
it.
canon.
It's the only way we can count.
That's not fair for the listeners.
5 out of the
Yeah.
7 elements we talked about when it came to what did GMs juggle, the game of game mastery. So we're going to look at those last couple to start off with, and then over to you, Thea.
Then what are we doing? We are then going to reflect and look back. I warned you that the brain was not braining. Because this is our 10th episode, it is our decade, as it were. We want to have a bit of a chat about things that we've enjoyed so far. I think one of the things that has been really important to all of us as we have these conversations about playing tabletop and role-playing games is the ability to be reflective and the ability to be intentional. So a really important part of that is us reflecting and, as a bonus, remembering the things that we've enjoyed so far, because who would object to a little bit of a serotonin boost every now and then?
Yeah.
Or dopamine, or all of those feel-good chemicals.
Feel good. Yes.
Yeah, but that's not all we'll do. Jared.
So we need to look, I think, as great as our first season has been, our launch has been amazing, and I'm so grateful for everyone who's joined us. I want to shoot for the stars. And maybe we will, what's the saying, shoot for the moon, land amongst the stars, even though we know the moon's hella closer. So like, whatever.
So it means you really missed, but to miss successfully.
I mean, I think as I started, it was the perfect analogy for what I was trying to say, which is we have made something happen here, and to craft that and hone that into what the community wants, needs, and what we want to try and bring out there, we can only look forward. So we always want to hear from you guys. We want comments. If you're listening to this somewhere there's comments, watching it on YouTube, even if you're joining us live right now, say hi in the chat. Jigsaw, my friend, who's followed us this evening. Thank you, my friend. It's good to see you. So yeah, we want to just make sure that everyone's tapped in because next season, that's what it's going to be all about. So we want to talk to amazing people and we want to talk to the community.
That's right. Looking forward to it.
Indeed.
Well, let's kick off. Jared, what have we got to start off with?
I guess, yeah, we really need to kind of finish last episode.
Yes.
And we really just want to tap into, like, just quickly hit a couple of points over the next few minutes and just kind of look at these few last elements. So we did talk about scope and scale a little bit, but effectively what that summarized down into was if you have a small scale of a world, whether that your world or your environment is your room, your dungeon, your village, or the surrounding region, eventually continent, worlds, planets, universes, you need to have a scope of lore and knowledge. So I think we distilled that down into a pretty precise thing. Thea tapped on active story editing skills. You are always chopping, changing, but engaging, adapting, and listening to your audience and your players. So yeah, and sometimes you just chop it up, have it all prepped, ready to go, put it aside, don't worry about it. But when you do bring some of this prep or even some improvisation, acting skills as your NPCs, your creatures, we talked, I think we even just live demonstrated how simply by mentally thinking and Thea postulating and posturing, there was a voice change. I think I threw in an accent there that I don't regret. I did it on the fly. I will do many more accents. I just don't, again, I don't want to ever offend anyone. But I'll do my own voices. We'll do whatever we do.
That's what we should talk about in a future episode.
We can talk about that, and we want everyone to know because, again, it's not mocking, it's not mimicry for the sake of 2-point direct fun out or anything. It is purely for entertainment. So, but as you do entertain, you will narrate, describe these worlds and seeds, and we want to just make sure that we have a system for distilling down the right information that comes across. You don't want to over-describe or under-describe, as we discussed with Boblin the Goblin or Bob the Goblin, the classic random NPC that you just thought throw in the room. Yet you described in great detail a very intriguing roguish character in the corner smoking an ornate pipe. But no plans via contact with the players. But sometimes again, and like I love that we've kind of really distilled these, I think, into these 5 because it gives you a thing. Again, I don't want to have choice paradox. I don't know if you've ever been at an ice cream bar and you have so many flavors to choose from and you're like, damn, like I like fruity things, but at the same time there's caramels and so many different options and so many crazy flavors these days.
And
but if I said,
decision paralysis.
I've got exactly. It's a paradox. It's a paralysis decision that comes in through the brain, and you eventually just choose something. So yeah, that's why I just have a consistent thing generally with ice cream, but not with
You've made us want food again. I just want you to know.
My coffee. I probably this week I've literally had a different coffee every day, from ice long blacks to oat milk lattes to bulletproof coffees, because I like.
It's impressive.
I like lots of coffee. I've digress.
And just to demonstrate how things can just move away from the plan.
Yeah. But what we
and now I want coffee and ice cream.
It's too late. No. Affogato done.
No.
Yes.
It's not. Yes.
Espresso, vanilla ice cream done. While we're doing all of this, there's this unfortunate other information that we need, which is being a referee, being the rules adjudicator. You need to make calls, decisions, and that can be a socially awkward thing. Sometimes can be difficult for people, and sometimes you also have to be that source of knowledge for new people. And that's not to say that, I mean, again, I don't think anyone really has encyclopedic knowledge of any game system unless you have played the same system for different groups in different combinations with different characters. And again, players, you will never cycle through all the character options truly. So these conversations, I think about best class combination, all of that, and it's fun. I allow it. I don't. I just let it be. I let it happen. But yeah, I guess 2 more areas we wanted to discuss. But I will let my co-hosts lead that conversation from here.
Thanks for the summary of that as well, because there's a lot. It's kind of like
So much
finding and
going
working
on.
out that these 7 kind of elements that we're juggling at once.
Mm.
When you think about it, it is a lot, but at the same time, it gets easier the more you do it, and that's why starting small is great.
Mm.
So this is interesting because you've talked about story, people's own characters, their stories, making sure you've got the rules across things, keeping editing as you're going as well, so that you can
Mm.
keep. And I think that's leading into something slightly different to that, because you're talking about story editing skills, which is meaning you're keeping across your players as they go through the
Mm.
story, and it's like, oh, this has happened, okay, I need to be able to remember this is no longer necessary, that's editing skills. That's one thing.
Mm.
Yeah.
But different to that is point number 6, and that would be, as the scene progresses and you've got the idea of the bigger story, which is number 1. We talked about the keeper and preserver of lore. So you know the overall story, arching lore, you name it. And your players have their ongoing things that are going on. So you've got to continue editing the story as you go. You're then trying to, hopefully you've planned some of this out, but at the same time, actively, you will be providing players hooks that lead to potential next scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not only
Mhm.
something, of course, hopefully you've got a few plans for this, like laden, again, plans never survive contact with the players. That idea that you've got possibly a couple of hooks that are coming up that this story will link to. There's the Duke that the players' characters know they're going to have the meeting with tomorrow, and they need to meet with this person. But
Mm.
beforehand, they're going to plan kind of an impromptu meeting with a mercenary group that they've got a little bit of a competition on, and they might get into a fight, even though they know that fighting is banned in the town. So who knows where that could lead?
Mm.
But you know that you've got not just the Duke's hook there, but there is a hook linked to that mercenary band that can lead to somewhere else. Or there's a hook with, if they don't do that, something
Mm.
could happen that they aren't aware of with that mercenary band that leads to another story
Yeah.
point.
Mm.
Or if they don't do anything, there's
Mm.
another story point that can happen. And it's just being able to juggle these different hooks so okay, I can lead into these possible directions. Um, and setting that up, it's knowing your story really well is a big thing.
Mhm.
And keeping it simple is a really, really good idea. But also listening to your players and getting their stories and hooking and weaving them in is a
Mm.
really great way of being able to go, oh, okay, then I know I can lead to this point or this point or this point, and we just take it from there
Mm.
and see where it goes. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, and jump in
Yeah.
when you can. I was going to say there was one
Yeah.
thing that I thought was really interesting is not that you're going to have those story beats and those hook for
Mhm.
your plot lines that you're continuing. But I find nothing more satisfying than when you've got a player storyline that you can tie into the hook, and that
Mm.
will provide that motivation.
Pull them along.
It's
Mm.
so good when you get that
Yeah.
moment where you're like, oh, I know this person has a
Mm.
problem with those mercenaries here. I need to. That will also hook to
Yeah.
this particular plot line. They're linked to these guys as well, and so that will
Yeah.
they'll be motivated to go after
Mm.
this as well, which is
Mm.
fantastic.
Yeah.
How's that affect?
I
How have this affected you guys? Yeah.
I have a question for you. Practically, how do you do that? Do you have things written down? Is this part of your plan? Do you
Yes,
have
pray
little
tell.
post-it notes? Yeah.
That's a really good question. Um, I'll answer briefly because I think we should all
Yeah.
do this. For me, I have learned it's so easy to just write and write and write, but I've learned
Mhm.
over time it's a bit like editing a story in some ways, but it's different because you have multiple options of places it
Mm.
can go. So it's basically,
Branching.
here are scenes, yeah, and here are scenes on an index card. I'll
Mhm.
start off with an index card with just like, here's a scene in a particular place with a particular character that I think this
Yeah.
could go. The place could change, but the character stays the same. It's just about how do they get to that character, whatever. But I just hook it
Yep.
around a certain theme, usually try and give it a mood. And then
Mhm.
I do that with a bunch of different scenes. It's very storyboarding for
Mm.
anyone who's done film or things like that.
Yep.
I've had some of that background, which I think is where I got some of it from. And if you've got a lot of index cards,
Mm.
you can just place these out. I did this for one of my games. That's a big game, and my God, I'm so glad
Yeah.
I did, just to keep track of things. But then I
Yep.
started to learn to cut things down. So I only have, look, for this
Mm.
session, I only need to have like about 3 or 4 of them as options, and that's it. And then
Yep.
wherever it goes, it's like, here's a character, here's the hook. Like in this scene, they're going to start at this scene. Here's the hook of places they can go, and then just here's some their character hooks that they have. I just have as
Mm.
their character sheets. I've got them listed up on the DM screen so I can remember what they've got. And I'm
Yep.
like, oh, that reminds me of
That
this.
ties in.
That's going to
Yeah.
tie
Yeah.
in. Okay, cool.
Mm.
Well, so you remember that this mercenary also happened to be a follower of
Mm.
Bane, the god of strife or something, and you know
Yep.
you got a problem with
Death,
him as
but
well,
yeah.
and something's blah blah blah
I
blah.
think
Anyway,
murder.
Mm.
Murder
index
specifically.
cards, murder.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And
Little
in
bit.
any event, it's I
But yes.
use index cards just to
Mm.
shape it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you guys? What do you do?
Yeah.
None of that.
You do, Jared.
I don't, yeah, well, again, like, this is why I love these conversations, because there's a whole
Mm.
mentality, mode, operation, default that Ian goes through. There is a mental process of filtering of ideas,
Mhm.
both input and output. And my methodology is completely different. I just I use like the
Mm.
How to Get Things Done method a little bit by David Allen, which is capture. Oh, there's like 5 steps, but basically capture all your ideas in a central place, whether that means having a notebook that's in your pocket all the time, or, digital age, we obviously have apps and all sorts of useful
Yep.
things.
Yeah.
So you want to be able to capture things as quickly and easily as possible when they come to you. And his quote is, the brain is not designed to hold ideas, it's to have ideas,
Mm.
or to some effect.
Oh,
So
good quote.
when
I like
when you get this information, like at a live session, I'm very bad at like actually capturing these notes. It's not something that I particularly do very well as a DM, is take notes. I do after session, like I write the recap after
Yeah.
the session, because that's the most important
Yeah,
thing.
me too.
And I've employed a methodology called stars and wishes. So that's when people can say, I liked that, I want more of that, either content or what player did. And we give props.
Mhm.
Again, I've probably talked about this a few times, inspired by
Yeah.
the dreaded GM, fellow
Mhm.
creator, local creator of ours in Oz. But
Mhm.
yeah, it really takes it takes very little, I guess, to capture these ideas and always have them about. So they're either on the character sheet that I put in my Notion,
Mhm.
which is my all common binder, my digital binder, effectively. So it's either on the player's
We're
character
not
sheet.
sponsored.
Yeah, it's just the app that I use. I used to use OneNote, like absolutely. But you need to capture these ideas, and having them somewhere,
Mm.
and you use index cards, and that's a visual thing that's in front of you, and you don't use all of them. You use a restricted amount. It's
Mm.
these are all fantastic ways of doing things. So yeah, I don't necessarily
Yeah.
have a solid method, but I try to capture as much of this information as possible.
Mm.
Yeah, and then
That's
See,
so
I take
cool.
probably them.
Yeah.
and then from scene to
How about you,
scene,
Thea? Yeah.
you just
Yeah. I was going to say, Gerard, you're going to finish yours scene to scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just, again, like,
Give us the nuggets of
I
wisdom.
guess to like bring it back to the thing is like where if you are hooking from one scene to another, there is I always love to just basically use environmental descriptions. Like there's obviously something that people see, hear, or experience that makes them want to go or do something. Either where they are is uncomfortable and they need to leave, or it's no longer valuable. It's they're either like, and then they're going to leave, or something else is valuable, or something else is in danger that they don't want to be in danger. Like it's very very. I've been reading some very dense game mastery stuff. There's a website, the Tao of D&D, is a blog, and it's dense.
Cool.
And he recently just talked
interesting.
about the topic of the blog was just inside, and it's like, why do we do dungeons? Like, why is there not stuff in certain rooms and things like that? The bigger the dungeon, the less it makes sense. To distill his whole article. But he made a really good point, and I was like, well, yeah, because when people are there needs to be something interesting, and it's not every single room, but there's enough. Like, again, what happened in that room? It's not an empty room. So that's how I think. I think like, what are the players' environment? That's my thing that I would focus on to drive.
That's kind of what you used to cue in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my cue.
So, yeah,
cool.
That is very cool. You are both far more organized than me. I don't think I've graduated from my uni days of taking a whole bunch of notes and using a 4-colored pen. So I have 4-colored pens. You know those ones when you're in primary school, and this is a aside, but I promise it's relevant. And you had the 4-colored pens, and it had the green, the red, the black, and the blue, right? And you'd always finish up with the blue and the black first. I felt it was really unfair to the green and the red. So I now have 4-colored pens and will write different things in different colors in the notes that I'm just jotting down through the game. Yes, you've got different colored pens. See, that's being fair to all the pens. I'm talking about the one. Wait, do I have one? I'm talking about the one where it's in the one and you click them all down.
And they're like sky blue down the bottom. I know the
Yeah,
ones.
yeah. The blue down the bottom. Yeah. So, yes, they're a big pen. So I take notes in different colors, and things that I want to come back to, I will have as a red or as a green as things to pick up, just as a visual. But it is still very much, if you ever looked at it, it is very much the note-taking system that I developed when I was at uni, trying to catch up, and actually still use for work. Now I think about it, I use the justice for the 4-color pens. Okay.
Yeah.
Hashtag.
But it works. Yeah. It's, you're right, Loz. Like Loz has said, that everyone has their own strengths, and that's what they play off in the in your DMing systems. And I agree.
Yeah.
Speaking of strengths, mine is not staying on time, but I know there is a lot we wanted to get through in this particular episode. There's just one thing that I wanted to talk about quickly before we start reflecting on this magnificent decade that we have experienced.
Agreed.
And I'm using that correctly, I think. Decade. Anyway, so the last thing that I wanted to talk about for DMing tools and tips relates not so much to any specific tool, but is more about pencil.
Me.
You'll see.
I'm talking to Purdy. I'm talking to Purdy. I have all of these things within an arm's reach.
Okay. All right. Hang on. Wait. I think I have the best pencil.
Is that a Mickey Mouse?
Right
now?
No.
That's the pirate pen.
It is a pirate pencil.
Did we not, all three of us, did we not find and did we not source, did you not require and we not source a sharpener at Collecticon for that pencil? I just want to say.
I was very impressed. Yes. This is things that happen outside of stream. You may have gathered that we all have our own strengths. Mine is to bring the chaos, and Ian and Jared's is to mitigate the effects of that chaos at times.
Well, I think we do for
and
each
hello,
other.
Purdy.
I think we do. Encapsulate.
Yes. Gently
move that's right.
For everyone's enjoyment, so that it's not just here. Please enjoy.
But yes, I hear you saying time. What is the
one of
the
the things
7?
that I like to the number 7, and this is just our 7. These are just things that we have come up with. Obviously, it is not. I mean, obviously, it's completely correct and the way you should do things. But if you choose to do things not the correct way, which is our way, there's lots of other things to choose from. But I wanted to talk very quickly about one of the things that I think sometimes you can lose track of as a DM, but I think is actually one of the most fundamental skills, and it's staying in tune with your players. So as a DM or as a GM, as we're running the game, we're not just running the mechanics of it. We're not just making sure we've got battle maps or we're describing things correctly, or that we've got the story and what's the next beat next. It's also being aware and picking up on some of the subtle cues from your players. Now, not every DM is going to be a what's that TV show where the guy that could read people? It was a terrible show.
Mentalist, whatever
anyway,
it was,
that's it. Yeah, we're not all going to be mentalists and be able to cold read our players and know exactly what they're thinking. Monk, that was also good. But you're showing your age. No, that was a good show. It was a good show.
Classic. Utter classic.
But I'm not saying that you need to that, but I think that it's important, a skill to cultivate as a TM is just to keep track of your players, because you do have that kind of authority and you do have that power. It does kind of then fall to you as a responsibility to at least be aware of how comfortable your players are. And if they are not comfortable, having a plan to redirect. that still maintains that psychological safety that we've talked so much about. Now, this could be things, if you've got X cards in your game, it's actually trying to leave yourself the cognitive space to pay attention to that, which can be really hard when you're juggling all this stuff. And just looking around, and if a player, especially if they're very subtle, sort of going, but it's really important you pay attention to that. We can't set up a safety tool and then have it not work. It could be things like, and for me, because I've spent a lot of time watching people, that sounds creepy, professionally. I do assessment centers. I watch people for a living.
Observing.
It's still sounding observing. That is, thank you. Thank you. But paying attention to what are some of those, psychology. It's just still staying real creepy. Anyway,
Move along.
but paying attention to what are those signals that people might be giving? Is it that a player is becoming more withdrawn and they were talking and now they're not talking so much? Is it that they're visibly upset? Is it they're sort of closing off their body language? And again, we're all going to have different levels of skill at this, and we're all going to have different levels of comfort paying attention and watching creepily. People don't watch people creepily. But as a DM, it's important that if you get the sense that people are becoming uncomfortable, as I am with this conversation right now, that you have a plan. Simple self-disclosure I was not prepared for. No, it's have a plan. If you think there is a chance that the material that's in your game could potentially make people uncomfortable, have a plan for diverting. For me, I've got scenarios that are, and I thought of this pun beforehand, ready to roll. But in all seriousness, we need to have that as a sound effect. Next season, we need sound effects.
Done. Soundboard. It will happen.
Hey. But it is having things. So if I'm potentially going into a situation that is challenging for players, there might be kidnapping, something involved, I will have an out that won't be on a very nice palm card, but it will be there. I will have something set up, ready to go, whether it is a monster, whether it is a trap that drops everybody, literally drops them out of the situation and into something new, I've got that kind of interrupt ready to go. It's within the mechanics of the game. If it's a trap, people will have a chance to save. But again, I have a plan to divert that direction. It's that kind of, it's an idea of, it's like damming it up. It's like that sort of, I'm running out of words, but you know what I mean.
We got it. Absolutely.
That's the kind of, I guess not the worst case, but where you need to divert. But it's also being able to pick up, one of the things that I think is really important as a DM is being able to pick up on what your players need from you in terms of DM input. Now, we've all played with a huge range of people. Some players, they are the very talkative and they've got an idea for their character and they really know what they want to happen. Figuring out a way to sort of contain them is important to give people a chance. But equally important is you might have players who are very shy, could be neurodiverse, could be autistic, could be a whole lot of different things that don't want to just spark up and talk in the middle of the group. And they might actually be comfortable with you saying, hey, we're at a door. Would your character like to do this or something else? And offering them options. And again, that's paying attention to the players and seeing what they seem to respond to. It's not easy. We're not all going to get it right. I don't get it right. But I think that is something, at least for me, that I think is really important to think about. And if I'm going to drop things off that I'm doing as a DM, I would rather drop off mechanics and have to look stuff up or lose track of layer actions or something than lose track of my players. That's kind of what I think. How about you guys?
No, you just literally ended it so perfectly. Keep track of your players, not the rules. Like there's so much you can throw away in a role-playing game. And you also just reminded, like, the way you said, like, I don't know how you said it, whether it was monitor your players for DM input. My lighting just changed. Dramatic lighting change.
Yeah, I saw that.
Monitor your players for DM input.
Yeah.
Spotlights.
Yeah. Wait, I can match that.
Here
we go.
Okay. All right. But
there we go.
We effectively are that, and it's very interesting because last night I took some very good old friends of mine who I've wanted to play some role-playing games with for a while, and we used the chat bot again. There we go. Back to where we went. We used the chatbot because that's what I was familiar with. I knew it was going to work, but I approached it completely different to our AI game. And I knew what to ask it, and I found it very interesting as a DM of 10 plus years, and as someone who has been using these chat AI interfaces, and really, I don't want to use the word prompt engineering because it will be so quickly phased out once it's not necessary, because you will be able to say, let's play Dungeons and Dragons, this is who we are, and you can just talk to it and it'll talk back to you and it'll be amazing. Give it 5 years less, I bet.
Yeah.
I digress. How does the AI, how does the AI know what we want, what we feel? We have to give it input. We have to talk to it. What you've just said here is incredible because it's knowing what isn't being said. It's reading the body language. It's reading between the lines.
Completely agree.
And interestingly, on AI can't do that.
No, not yet.
At least not yet.
Unless we all have these face tracking interface stuff. And again, like I can turn on this feature with my camera that I've showed you guys.
Please don't fiddle with anything right now.
I know.
I don't.
I've thrown on the eye contact thing.
I don't want to squash your enthusiasm.
I'm sorry.
Gosh.
I knew it was going to be safe. So I've turned on this eye contact thing, which means I'm not actually looking at the camera lens at all now. You guys will see me looking around quite often. I do apologize. I have 3 monitors plus my tablet right in front of me to keep track of all of the stream production stuff. So this looks completely unnatural because not once during this whole conversation have I been looking at the camera. And now I will turn that off because it is utterly creepy. You're welcome.
Actually,
and we digress.
So for those of you listening,
but that's reading the room. It was like also as a DM, seeing that. Example. Hang on, I know that you're listening, but I know you're not really actively looking this way. And it's like and it's like working out how do I engage? How do I? I love what you said about reading between the lines and gauging the mood. And I'll keep it brief because I know we want to jump into this as well. Because I think actually each one of these elements could have its own episode. We could talk about
100%.
it.
Yeah.
So real brief on me is absolutely. I think it's just the reading between the lines of your players and knowing, you know what, I had this scene was something. This moment, you know, you may have been planning for a while, but if you're seeing that the group is just dead silent and just looking or looking away, and just not, they're not there. You've got to change up the mood. And it's like, you've got to be like, all of a sudden, like you said, you've got a pit that opens up and all of a sudden you're like, what the hell? How did that happen? You don't know. Have a look around. Yep. Oh, okay. And gauging that mood to keep the momentum and to engage, because that's why I can imagine for many GMs, they're exhausted at the end of the game because keeping that attention level up and keeping an eye on things takes work. It takes work. But I love still learning every day, and I love to learn more about this when we can talk further down the line about this particular one. Yeah. What it's like 100%. Learning how to read people and how it is not in a creepy way. We are masters of learning about human nature. That's actually why I love role playing. We're learning about why do people do what they do. Oh, why is this is happening? These guys are clearly not getting on today as well. Okay, we can talk about baggage later on and all that kind of thing, but how can we engage them today and then just let that slide so that we can just all have a really fun game today? Yeah, it's huge. Yeah, it's
sometimes the escapism that we try to achieve, you know, the safe, lovely, caring, collaborative environment. Other things do get into that. It is a wonderful temporary distraction and, you know, a very healthy one for the most part. But again, you know, people do bring personal things in. I've been very grateful to not have a lot of you know, problem players. Again, I hate sort of a lot of the terminology that gets thrown around in the community just ended up being that way. And nobody really thought like, no, it's not problem players, it's difficult situations. It's not about the people.
Yeah.
It is often who you deal with and how you deal with that depends on the person, but it's not that they're inherently causing the friction. There is something that's happening in their environment and their behavior. Yeah. So that's not, again, like we've been doing this so long and we're also like all kind of understanding this psychology. So again, like for the average Joe, don't feel like you have to like dive into these massive principles. Again, this is number 7, where this is right at the end of these like 5 stages. They're not in any particular order, but don't dive into this. But anything else to end off that point?
I do love what Quinn has just popped into the chat,
Yeah, I was reading
where a
that too.
meteorite explodes, and out of the smoke and the shadows and this dust that's gritting your teeth up emerges a goose.
Yes.
And they're drawing like, what the hell? And it's
100%
that
so
gets
good.
attention.
Yeah,
That's
the
gold.
I
non
love it.
sequitur. Learning the
very, very
non
good.
sequitur is
Yeah.
the best when it comes to
Yes.
story. So thank you for that,
Speaking
Quinn.
of
It's a wonderful way to
non-sequiturs.
kick me off.
Yeah. I love it.
Cool.
So
Thank
good.
you for talking about that. Thea, what's next?
What's next?
What is next? So we've kind of wrapped up what we wanted to talk about from last week. This is our kind of decanarian, and yes, that's a word now. Fight me.
Okay.
We want to talk about looking back. I think it is really important that we are very intentional, very mindful, and very reflective about what we've experienced along this journey, which sounds very deep and very hippie-like, and that's okay. One of the things that we did want to talk about was not just we had so many good episodes, and this episode was good, and this episode was good, and we just cut together a montage, and hey, no more work for the rest of the night. We actually wanted to be a little bit. I know. Why did we not think of that? We should have. We want to look back and see how's this this experience of us sitting here chatting together. How's it kind of affected us, and what are some of the moments that we really got a lot out of? And so I guess that's kind of what we wanted to spend the next half of the show chatting about. And before we came on, we talked about an order and we talked about what episodes we were going to talk about. And we made some good notes. And I just believe that Jared is going to snake one of my favourite episodes from me.
No,
but Jared,
I'm going to continue your passionate
we're going to continue
discussion
mine.
about
All right.
Sims.
We can all jump
Our
in.
experience with Sims. And Ian can ask us questions.
All right.
Yeah.
And Ian can ask us questions. But yes, so, well, I'm going to throw the order out the window. And do you guys mind if I jump in with my favourite moments?
Go for it.
Go on,
shoot.
All right. So probably, and I kind of warmed the boat with this one, is I did really enjoy the episode where we sat down, and it wasn't because you weren't here, Ian. I love you dearly.
Sure.
But I really enjoyed sitting down chatting with Sim and Jared about that new player experience. And I think the reason that I enjoyed that so much was the genuine connection between the two of them, but also the kind of genuine passion and enjoyment of the game that was coming out. And as we've established, I'm a people watcher, but that dynamic and just seeing how people interact with their experience is absolutely fascinating. And I guess it just reminded me how important this game can be to people, and how important the relationships that you form are. And I know that Jared is probably going to want to springboard off that a little bit. But the other moment that I really enjoyed, and it kind of ties into that, was our very first episode. And the reason that I liked that, one, it was great. It was so much energy and fun, and everyone in chat was wonderful, and you guys were wonderful.
Yes.
But
Thank you, everyone.
Reflecting, I've realized how important it is to have a peer group, to have a group of people who you can chat to, talk about your experiences, because we have talked about it a little bit. There is something of a power dynamic between players and GMs, and not that, one is better, one is the leader of the world and we should all bow down. But there is a power differential, and there are things that you can't talk about with your players that it is nice to be able to talk about with other DMs. And the uncertainties of, oh my God, I think I let my players down. I did all this stuff that was wrong. I don't know the rules. Having people to talk to, like you guys, has been really helpful. And I think that's what I'm taking away from this. Plus, it's just lovely. You're wonderful hanging out with. I get some good, get the good vibes and the good feels. But that's kind of what I've, It's these relationships.
It's
it's community
100%.
and belonging, and that's exactly what I was hoping for when I reached out to exactly that. My amazing local, brilliant dungeon masters, collaborators, co-hosts, and just the two of you. I am talking about these wonderful people, because it's exactly that. And
You too, Jared.
yes, like to have a community,
Yeah,
and
you
like
too.
I don't want to like start calling our community anything in particular. You know, like these like people have nicknames for their followers, but I want to just say we are
The
becoming a
socialites?
tribe. The socialites, we are becoming
Mm.
a tribe in a way. Like we can
Our
be the
tribe.
social, yeah. Like
Yeah.
we can just be our own tribe because the dungeon masters, like you said, where do they go?
Mm.
Like where's the dungeon master, game master hangout? It's at
Yeah.
conventions, and you steal these
Mm.
moments while you're quickly eating, while you're,
Mm.
and you're not going to have
Mm.
timing because like when you get an opportunity to go to the bathroom,
Yeah.
someone else needs to go get their water bottle filled up, and then by the end of the day,
Mm.
we had that brief
Mm.
moment, and it was just so fortunate that I could capture the right people.
Mm.
That was going a strange direction that I could convince. No.
It was very wholesome.
That I could
Wait,
open the
capture.
doors.
Oh.
He said capture.
That I could open the doors to
We're
have you
okay,
guys join
everybody.
us.
We're fine. We
No.
get
The doors
fed
into the
regularly.
trap.
I like
that-
how I could have just moved on, but
Fell
I
down.
paused and I once again opened the door.
Yep.
But yeah, to bring right back around, Sim, thank you, my friend, for joining us. Because it was exactly that. It was a conversation that probably would never have happened between a new player and his dungeon master. The opportunity to reflect on what I had done and to know that I did an all right job, better than I hope. I don't know why I still
you
hope.
did a
This was
great job.
confirmation. That's truly what it was. It was confirmation of a job well done. It's the feedback that I think, in most businesses, in most collaborative teams, when there is a power differential, where is the recognition? Where is the understanding of coming up from the ground up? Where's the support? Where is the education and training and hand holding and the occasional taking of a load so that one can relax, reflect, and expand into a space? There's just a lot going on in my work in this environment at the moment. So to not have those two things in alignment when this project has been so wonderful, we have lifted each other up, and it is the definition of a beautiful collaborative experience. And I just want to open that to the world. So thank you for everyone who is watching, will be watching, because that's what was important for me.
And I want to pick up on that too. Looking back on it, because that was the first chance I really had a chance to listen to an episode that I had very little to do with. And it was so refreshing for me because then I could just experience this. I think it was really nice because you were kind of a mediator for the whole thing as well, in a way, or facilitator rather, actually, more so.
Yeah.
And it was more, it was awesome because it was so nice to see. We'll talk about other ones we're favorites, but I want to talk about this one. This one here, that it was so nice to see, Jared. There were moments I could tell were absolute surprises for you about how Sim was experiencing the time with you
And what he learned and where he learned
and the
it.
game.
Yeah.
And it was so just there was clear openness and it was clear fun that you guys already have, so that opened up straight away. We went, this is a good space to be in. And so then the things that came out that was surprising is even greater because they were also very positive. And so that's a wonderful place to be. And that's exactly the kind of stuff that I'm like, that's what I love about this activity that we do. And because it's self-validating in some ways, it's validating of what you're doing as a group, and those moments of joy are gold. And so it was awesome to witness. So cool. Oh,
What
thanks
else
for
did you like, Ian?
What did you?
Well, for me, I was thinking about this, and I want to say we would not be here without you, Jared. And I have been thinking for years, I want that space. What we just talked about, both of you talked about, and that the awesome guys in the chat are here clearly because we have a shared experience, and not necessarily being in the same game, but because we're games masters of a way of engaging with people. And there are a lot of people who do. And when you start talking and the sparks that suddenly going off, you can see it behind people's eyes straight away. You just like, we're in the same tribe. We get this as well. And it's like, oh my God, the experiences you have, the moments that you have, they're amazing. How do you deal with it when it's like there's a clash between players? How do you deal with it when there's, this thing here? And it's like, we don't have platforms for this enough. We have a lot of platforms out there that are watching people play games. And I think that's exactly where the greater consciousness currently is, to understand what the hell is role-playing games. And that's great. We need more. And I think this kind of conversation is a godsend
Yeah, it's invaluable.
for
It's
me.
utterly invaluable.
Yeah.
And I hope
sure.
there are more of these. I think there definitely are more of these, like podcasts or groups out there who are doing this. And I want to connect with them. I want more guest appearances and more to cross over, so that we can build this conversation. It's just phenomenal. So yeah, first episode, because we got that started. But really, then to go from that, I'm just really glad we got a chance to talk last week. And this whole thing about just what are the things, because of that, we have this shared experience. What do we juggle? Like, there is so much stuff. And this is oodles of content we've got to come. And guys, in chat, we want to hear about your experiences of how, oh my God, trying to juggle the story load here with this suddenly happened. What am I going to do? And I keep seeing Facebook posts of people saying, this happened in my game. And it's like, a Facebook post doesn't do justice to the conversation you can have in a group of people. That's why we've got to do more.
More
and I love talking and hearing your experiences, because it's similar but different, and you have a different way of looking at it. And just like, aha moments for me to go, oh, that's how you dealt with this.
Even how we started this episode, just how we talked about, how do you keep momentum? How do you keep those hooks going? Do you have like preordained sort of things? Do you have ideas that you write down? Do you use lazy DM method, where you write, I think he wants you to write 10 secrets every time you prep, and if you don't use them, you throw them away because they were probably not good enough. And I'm like, hang on, you're never going to do that. No. But that's his way of like hardcore distilling your best ideas. But goddamn, if like I'm going to do that, right? So exactly that. We have different perspectives, and there's one that I'm aware of that I could educate and teach and inform about. I don't use, but I see the parallels in someone else's. You know, if Ian's showing it off, or exactly. It's.
But I mean, that's the good thing about, we sort of bounce off each other. We take the ideas out of each other in a consensual way.
Same but different.
And also I think it's really important that we sort of have such different styles, because sometimes I wonder whether people, when they're starting to DM or getting into running games, are like, oh, I've got to do it the right way. There is no right way. And I at least know I definitely do not demonstrate a right way. There is what works for you. And I think that's kind of the important thing. What's been really good about all of us talking is different things work for us.
Yeah. And hearing that, I think this is about modeling as well, which is just a general learning tool that people, I think, are really starting to understand. And don't get me started on how the Industrial Revolution killed craft, but that's another story.
Creativity.
People who have experience in a particular craft, and it's very specific, and they have their experience to share, you can't buy that. And it's like, your experience there is so valuable, because I've never heard anyone do things the way you do. And I'm like, oh, I wouldn't look at things that way. And then I hear Jared talking about it in a completely different way. And I still have flashbacks of you talking about that awesome live role play game that you did with those businesses that day. And you were like, it was phenomenal. And I'm like, I want to incorporate, I love this. And it's like, you can't buy that. You can't buy that. We need people with expertise. We need craftspeople. We need masters, and everyone who does it again and again, 10,000 hours or whatever way you want to look at it. That's valuable, and we should celebrate that. And we should meet, and we should be able to champion this with each other, because it's such a wonderful craft.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
I mean, I think that's, we're all in violent agreement here. We've got a few people in chat as well who I know have been here for a couple of episodes. So guys, if you feel that there's anything that you really enjoyed, or it's maybe found touching, moving, was useful, please let us know. We want to
hear more of. Anything you want to hear more, or dive deeper into. We want to hear that.
And not just here in chat, also in the Discord. Is the Discord command working?
Yes.
I don't know.
All of them
maybe.
are working.
Yes.
Now. So yes, we have
the homebrew episode.
Not only Discord. But Facebook
Cody,
and
what
YouTube.
homebrew episode? Is that the one that you're
Yeah.
volunteering to come on for? Is that it? I mean,
Oh,
you are excellent at homebrew.
yes. Maybe it may be the AI GM thing that we did. I'm not sure. That was fun too. That was a very awesome
That actually
episode.
was a lot of fun.
That was so much fun.
Wild way.
I want to do a longer game.
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
I
We
know
can
I
and
keep campaigning. We've got to do an
Yeah.
actual 3-hour game with this, with a
Yep.
few more parameters, which might be something we could do next season, next
I think so.
decade, next
Absolutely.
decathlon.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
think so. I think we need to bring it in there. So
No, Purdy, we're not telling you to shut up.
no, please
But
don't.
be
We
careful what
need
you
to hear
volunteer
your
for.
insights into OMGM's game.
Yes.
We need your please. channel.
Hey, I haven't forgotten about. No, but yes, we should definitely do more stuff. See,
will.
that's
will.
me. That's my
Some
word of
stuff.
wisdom.
Yes.
Yes.
Picking up stuff. Yeah,
Nice,
the AI. Yeah, you're right, Purdy. The AI game was pretty interesting. And I think we're definitely going to do another one. And I think we're going to do a longer one. That's some of
Yeah.
the things that we've been talking about. Is I guess tossing things up a little bit. Wait, was that a bad choice of words?
No. That's good.
Fine, it's fine. Yeah, trying to not just have the chatting, but also have some of the maybe some more live play, maybe some crafting
activity.
type stuff.
Mm.
Yeah.
That could be
What
fun.
are we thinking for the
Ooh.
future?
I mean, I love making
Do you wanna-
maps, and I know some other people like making maps. So, I mean, I like
Yes.
making digital maps. I like drawing out my maps on my Chessex vinyl map.
Ooh, there's a
have
map.
Maps. There's a map over there.
We have
It's
maps.
sort of here.
Jared,
Beautiful map.
we must do a map making thing. I love
See,
maps.
I don't have
so
a,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't have something. That's one thing I don't. I have flags. I have invisible flags.
Oh,
Within
okay,
arm's reach.
cool.
I don't have my maps here.
Nice.
But again, like, yeah, we can absolutely. I would love to build some worlds, and do collaboratively with both of you guys. We can do some homebrew episodes. But again, I think, like we've said, and Ian, you put so perfectly, there is so much content out there. There's so many people talking about playing, and there is a lot of people playing, and they talk about content for playing, and they are either talking about playing or doing that. And I think someone like AJ Winters, who's doing these Four Corners episodes, are fantastic.
Yeah.
She gets 3 other collaborators on, 3 other dungeon masters and creators, and they together build a world. And I listened to it the other night while I was just doing DM prep and stuff, and it was just fantastic to hear another collaborative creative process that, again, unless you intentionally get these game masters and creators together, when does that happen? Like, you're not gonna and it's such a fun little thing to do that could either be used as complete just entertainment as it is, that's the content, or people can use this stuff. They could either be using it in their world, or you can add little ideas and flavors to anything. So yeah, we want to definitely do some more cool, collaborative, creative.
Yes. It looks like, and got some people in chat, Purdy, talking about convention play. So talking about different types of playing. That could be something we could look at as well.
Absolutely.
Because
that was good to talk about.
not
actually,
everybody plays the
too,
same.
Yeah, because how different it is that we prepare as well. I know our experience. I'd love to hear other people's experience of convention play too, because it can be very different. And it's not what you do in your home, or sort of like, that you do it in different kind of places. So, yeah, that was cool.
For sure.
But we had some ideas as well that for next season we're going to have a short 2-week break, so everyone knows, just so that we can also retool, think tank, come up with ideas, sit back and relax on a cabana or something at some point, just to chill for a moment. It's nice to have a rest.
What is a cabana? I always thought it was a sausage, but clearly not.
Kielbasa.
I'm sure it can be. I don't know.
Kielbasa is the sausage. You're not far
It's
off.
whatever it can be.
And a Cubano is a
some
sandwich.
rest. A Cubano is a phenomenal Cuban sandwich. That's another story. But anyway, thinking of
chef.
food and breaks and recuperation, 2 weeks. We're going to plan a few ideas how we're going to look at season 2. We'll be back on the 20th of April. Everyone, mark it down. 2 weeks from today, we'll be back with ideas brimming galore. We'll do some previews on Facebook and social media, so keep an eye out for those. One idea we may talk about that we've been throwing around would be the dangers of forever DMing.
Yep.
We've talked about that.
Some big ticket
For all
topics
you
that we
DMs
really want to talk about.
For all you
Yeah.
DMs out there who know what it's like, and particularly, I think the focus is going to be on burnout, and I think that's
Avoiding it.
really avoiding
Yeah.
burnout. All for
Yes.
those, and also, particularly from experience, I've experienced it. I've been there and I've had times where it's
Yeah.
just like I'm done. I can't.
Yeah.
I just can't. And how
Yeah.
can you be aware of it? Be aware that it may be setting in, and do things to prepare and
Yeah.
take care of yourself for it. So
Very
that was one idea.
important. Yeah.
Any other ideas, you guys?
Oh, man.
I mean, I like the idea of getting some more guests on, bringing in a bit more
Absolutely.
variety. I think that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
And getting people with different backgrounds, and because I think when we've had the guests, it's been a lot of fun. I mean, I love you guys; you're great, but you're so boring by now. No, I'm kidding.
I know.
But no,
You just seem
it's
to be
great to
saying
get
the
in.
same valuable things over and over again. It does get tiresome.
I was going to say let's bring in new blood, but let's bring in new. Let's.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
That's what we should do.
Yeah, we need to be having the conversation as a conversation with these people, with these perspectives, and with these other creators and people. We need to collaborate with people. So as we announced last week, we were hoping to hang out with Dan at Fairy Fire, but alas, an injury.
Yes.
But that's how things
stuff
go.
happens.
So we'll talk about that sort of mentality with your approach to what happens when things come up in life, because again, like as life goes on, so do other things. So
life happens.
Work-life balance can be an add-on to, I guess, burnout and all of that. It is. I've talked about burnout again. No, let's go directly into it.
No, but
I feel this is something we need to talk about.
Actually, I think I'll bring something that I think you just kind of brought in, which is a different subject. We haven't actually specifically talked about, and yet I swear every games group goes through scheduling.
Same thing.
Life comes in.
Let's talk about scheduling.
That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, I knew it. It was there.
Yeah, it is. It's two sides of the same coin. It's both. Where is our time, and is our time for D&D? How valuable is it? How much time do we put in as game masters, as players?
How much time can we put in?
What is expected of a group? What is reasonable? Where's the communication? It's one thing to be unavailable. It's another thing to not communicate that, as in, again, with any organization. So all of these approaches. So, but I mean, again, more fun things, storytelling. I would love to hear from
storytelling.
Ian. As a theater person, you understand maybe that live theatrical thing that is so well embedded into role-playing games. So I've never studied proper storytelling. What is the hero's journey? What are I do understand arcs and highs and lows and things like that.
Yeah.
But do I very intentionally filter my ideas into that?
Yeah.
Crafting a campaign or a one shot. Does that arc? Because again, you do a 3-hour one shot, 3 arcs. We could ask our AIGM to do something like that for us. But again, like, is that just a practice?
It was a 5-act story.
Yeah, and we just give it a time frame, and we just tell it, okay, we've reached 20 minutes. Do we need to move on or something? But again, these are all these things that we do so organically.
Lots and lots of ideas.
Yeah.
Speaking of time frames.
We've come to the
we're getting close. We're getting close.
We're coming to the end of our...
Thank you, Kit Kat.
Thank you, Kit
for the
Kat.
10th episode.
Thank you.
Good to be on the 10th. Hopefully 10 times 10 more. We'll see. As long as this keeps being fun, guys, we'll keep doing
100 more.
Thank you again,
Absolutely.
Jared, for starting us off, for getting Thea and me.
Yes.
Mwah,
Thank you.
for getting us together.
We love you.
I can put them over
We
here.
love you very much.
No, thank you guys.
All of you out there.
Thank you, chat.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, the community.
Yeah. This has been absolutely lovely.
This has been a warm hug.
We have put some links in the chat for our socials.
Yes.
If you guys are keen to check those out, ! Facebook, Discord, YouTube. But yeah, make sure you continue the conversation with us beyond here. We are still exploring the uncharted values of role-playing games and what impact that is going to have, as I believe Dungeons and Dragons film is #1 out there right now.
Yeah.
No surprise.
Yeah.
So yeah, make sure that you guys go check it out. I'm gonna try and see it with these lovely people when our convention crew get together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
that'd be
when,
great.
Yeah, that'd be really good
We'll
fun.
have to
So
talk about
when
that.
we're all healthy, well, and when we can schedule it, we'll make it happen. But
We'll
do
make
run
it
out
happen.
of time. We do run out of time. So
Yep.
thank you once again. Any final words?
Thank you all.